Hey, welcome. Today we're diving into the two fundamental ways our minds process the world around us. You've got the automatic, almost effortless path, and then you have the deliberate, analytical one. So let's get right into it.
But first, let me ask you something. What's your brain's default setting? I mean, when something happens, are you quick to react, or do you tend to kind of pause and analyze things? Just think about that for a second, because we're about to explore what that default mode is for most of us, and more importantly, why.
All right, let's start with our brain's absolute favorite way to operate. We're calling it autopilot. And you should know this isn't a flaw, not at all. It's actually an incredibly efficient feature that helps us get through our day.
See, our brains are basically hardwired to save energy whenever possible. And this autopilot mode, it handles thousands of tiny decisions every single day without you even noticing. Things like tying your shoes or driving a route you've taken a million times. It's fast, it's instinctual, and it keeps us from getting totally bogged down in analyzing every little thing.
Now, the autopilot has some pretty clear trademarks. It tends to accept things as they appear, it really trusts gut feelings and emotions, and it just loves a good shortcut. It's a system that's built for speed, not always for accuracy. As you look at this list, do any of these patterns feel familiar in your own thinking?
So, we have our autopilot. But what's the alternative? Let's take a second to formally define these two very different modes of thought. You've got the automatic autopilot versus its counterpart, which we'll call the conscious, engaged pilot.
So here's the textbook definition for our autopilot. Non-critical thinking is really just accepting things without putting them through any kind of filter. It's hearing a statement and just, nodding along. It's totally passive.
And then you've got its total opposite, critical thinking, our engaged pilot. The keywords you really need to notice here are active, skillful, and conscious effort. This is when you decide to grab the controls, to manually steer your thoughts, to actually analyze the data and form a judgment that's based on evidence, not just on instinct.
This chart just lays out the difference perfectly, doesn't it? Over on the left, you've got the autopilot. It passively accepts, it reacts with emotion, it's always looking for things that confirm what it already thinks. But on the right, the engaged pilot is actively questioning, it's analyzing logically, and it's searching for the truth, even if that truth is a little uncomfortable. It's really the difference between being a passenger and being the pilot of your own mind.
Okay, definitions are great and all, but let's see how this stuff actually plays out in the real world. We're going to walk through a couple of everyday scenarios to really see these two minds in action.
Oh yeah, we've all been there. You're just scrolling through your feed and bam, a headline pops up that makes your jaw drop or your blood boil. So, what happens next?
Well, the autopilot mind has that immediate emotional flare-up, outrage, fear, whatever it is, and it hits that share button before even reading the article. The critical mind, our engaged pilot, feels that emotion too, but it pauses. It asks, who wrote this? What's their angle? Can I find this same information somewhere else? It chooses to respond instead of just reacting.
Okay, let's try a more personal one. A friend, and they mean well, gives you some advice that you totally didn't ask for. It could be about your job, your relationships, you name it.
The autopilot might immediately get defensive, or maybe it does the opposite and just accepts the advice to avoid any awkwardness. The critical mind, though, handles this way differently. It listens, respectfully, but then it starts to evaluate. Is this advice actually relevant to me? Does this person really get my situation? And most importantly, does this align with my own goals? It's all about separating the advice from the person who's giving it.
So here's the really crucial point. We all have both of these modes. The real skill is knowing when it's time to switch off the autopilot and deliberately engage your inner pilot. So how do we actually do that?
I love this quote from Christopher Hitchens because it just gets right to the heart of it all. Critical thinking isn't about having a checklist of right opinions. It's about the process you use to get to your conclusions. It's all about the how, not just the what.
And you might be asking, why even bother? Well, because taking manual control of your thinking is like a superpower. Seriously, it leads to better decisions with your money, your health, your relationships. It helps you see through all the noise and misinformation out there and really understand the world on a much, much deeper level.
So here's a simple 3-step framework you can start using today. First, just pause. Don't react instantly. Just give yourself a beat. Second, question. Get curious. Who is telling me this? What's their evidence? Why should I believe them? And finally, evaluate. Look at the information, consider the other side, and then you decide. It's that simple. Pause, question, evaluate.
And that brings us to our final thought. The ultimate test of an engaged pilot isn't just analyzing new information that comes your way, but having the courage to turn that lens inward. So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. Which one of your own long-held beliefs might be overdue for a critical look?